Welcome to Elizabeth's Chronicles. Today we are going to look into why the Chris Watts case is so famous. If you love true crime, and want more stories just like this one, consider subscribing and hit that like button. In August of 2018, Chris Watts killed his pregnant wife and two beautiful daughters, 4-year-old Bella and 3-year-old Cece. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The nation became obsessed with the case. We are going to dig in and see what about this case stands out above so many others. Why did this case not only grip America but people around the world? Was it because he portrayed himself as a very worried and concerned husband and father when his family was missing? His words proclaimed how he wanted them back, but his body language told a different story. Sort of like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde being exposed on national television. His distant behavior has chilled our spines, and kept his lurid murders in the limelight for quite some time. Shannan's mother, Sandy Ruzek, told in an interview with 2020 that Watts didn't seem worried in the slightest when his wife and kids were both reported as missing. She said, "He didn't give a flying flip." Was it the fact that the story didn't make any sense whatsoever? It's so disturbing that it draws people in, hooks them like a fish, captivates, yet shocks the system in such a way that we can't process it, so we have to pick apart every scathing detail, so we can try to rationalize and make sense of it all. We need some sort of explanation, why this all happened. If there's not a good explanation that we all can identify with, then our minds can't comprehend that things can sometimes just happen for no logical sense. Or was it because he had everything a man could dream of? A beautiful wife, two beautiful little girls, and a son on the way. A beautiful home. He's like your husband, brother, best friend. Not one sign of violence or even a temper. The perfect man. His wife and children thought everything was perfect. The case undoubtedly is horrific and just traumatizing. So why are people so interested in it? It's possible that it's due to it being very recent, it's completely solved, and it's terrifying and brutal that a man could do this to his own family. People mourn with the family at the loss of a pregnant mother and her two beautiful daughters. Many people develop a sense of closeness to the victims, because of how well they get to know their lives. It becomes almost a prolonged mourning for the victims. For others it's the same as having a hard time looking away from a bad car accident. You really don't want to see anything gory, but you keep looking. For some it draws people in for the shock factor, while others it's simply they feel grateful it didn't happen to them or someone in their family. Or was it that Shannan was so similar to us? Shannan was similar to you, or you recognized friends in her. She was like your sister, neighbor or best friend. Everything about the family was mediocre in the grand scheme of things. The family was not wealthy, just your average everyday family trying to make it. They were an attractive couple, but still not glamorous or extravagant. Was it that Shannan touched so many people, with a warm and inviting personality? Always positive and uplifting. Giving advice and pep talks to her viewers in her videos. And her two little sweet girls were adorable, full of life and energy. When we look at this family we see ourselves and how this could easily be any one of us. Maybe it's because usually the crime adds up. When a crime of this nature happens, we can usually see a pattern. Their past behavior gives us clues, but with Chris Watts, there was just no clues. He was the perfect husband and father until that last 6 weeks. There's even years of videos proving what a great dad and husband he was. So when this hit, there was no warning signs for Shannan to even think he'd harm her or her precious girl. Or could it be all of the above, added to the fact that Nicole Kessinger adds to the drama? To the public she appeared self-centered, and far removed herself from the reality of this tragedy when she was in fact the catalyst. Some even suspect she may have nudged him, whispering in his ear to do this, while some even think she was involved in one way or another. And she's like the woman all married women hate. She's sexy but still has the innocent look that threatens them just as she threatened Shannon. Or was it an accumulation of many of the factors we've mentioned already? It's not just one caveat or two, it's everything all wrapped up into one case. The perfect husband, wife, kids, a nice home, secrecy, lies, the mistress, the horrible way these beautiful girls died and were disposed of. Everything together draws many people from around the world to continue wanting to know more. No matter what the reason for the public craving more news about the Chris Watts case, even after it's long been tried and sentenced, people related to the family, to her, to him, to the girls. Every part of their lives was lived openly on social media, so when this story broke, anyone could easily go pull her Facebook up and watch her videos, and get a peek into their lives. People get to know them and get invested into their lives. Many think their lives were a show, put on for the camera, but for Shannon and those girls, that was their lives. Everything was perfect, until 6 weeks before their murders. Chris was perfectly fine with his life, until his sordid affair with Kessinger. And then we have the extreme group. There are some people out there, who are drawn to the killer. Watts receives letters from women, who have fallen in love with him. Some women are drawn to dangerous men. They find them attractive, and enticing. One lady sent a love letter saying, "In my heart, I know you're a great guy. If you do write me back, I'd be the happiest girl alive, that's for sure." She also reportedly added the hashtags #TeamChris, #Chris is innocent, #LoveHim and #Sue. Cute. A woman named Tatiana wrote to Watts, "I find myself thinking about you a lot," and enclosed a photo of herself in a bikini. Another writer allegedly gushed, "I'm hoping to brighten your days," while still another stated, "I feel this connection to you." It appears this is not something new. Women throughout the years have been attracted to men behind bars. Convicted killer Charles Manson, Scott Peterson, and Richard Ramirez have all received marriage proposals while severing their time behind bars, despite the horrible crimes they committed. The website like prisonpenpals.com, and convictmailbag.com, meetaninmate.com, it appears it makes it easy for women to write prison inmates. Sheila Eisenberg explores this phenomenon in her new book Women Who Love Men Who Kill. In her book, she interviews prison guards, lawyers, psychiatrists, and many others in an attempt to figure out why women are drawn to men behind bars. Eisenberg states what she discovered was that the women were abused earlier in their lives by their parents, fathers, husband, boyfriends, someone who they trusted. She states they were sexually abused, physiologically, and emotionally abused, and broken and hurt. She further states, when you are in a relationship with a man in prison, he's not going to hurt you. He can't hurt you. So you're always in control, because you are outside and they are trapped. You can visit when you want and leave. You control the relationship. Even though most inmates are manipulative, these women still have the upper hand, because they can refuse that collect call, or they can choose not to even go to the prison. The relationship is completely controlled by the one on the outside. These women come from all backgrounds, wealthy to very poor. Some have PhDs while others are uneducated. The common factor with all these women was a history of abuse, and many were Catholic. Eisenberg goes on to state that these women generally were madly in love. The women would describe their relationship as madly in love, that sort of passionate love that makes you feel like you are flying high. She said, "It's the kind of mad, passionate love that makes you lose your appetite, that makes you want to dance and sing." Eisenberg went on to say, and of course, visiting someone in a prison, where you're surrounded by razor wire, and high brick walls, and mean-looking guards, makes your relationship almost like Cinderella and the prince, everybody's out to get you. They're trying to keep you apart. It's very dangerous. It's so romantic. So having a relationship with a man in prison like that, for murder, is almost like reading a romance novel, where you never knows what's going to happen next. You never know if they'll let you into the prison, or they're on lockdown, or what's going to happen. She continued, most of the women I interviewed, managed to find a way to rationalize away or mitigate the crime and excuse it. He didn't really necessarily mean to be that murderer. There was even one woman I interviewed, who was a juror on a jury that convicted a guy of murder, and then she went to visit him in prison and fell in love with him. And afterward she said, you know, he wasn't really guilty, and I don't know why I convicted him. They find ways to excuse the murder. Like one woman I remember, she said, he was awkward, and when the door hit him in the arm, the gun went off. Another one said, his friends were all drinking and doing drugs, and he got carried away and he didn't mean to do it. This story is not in my book, but if I was going to write a sequel, this would have been in the book. It was a young woman, who this young guy murdered her grandmother. And for some reason she started corresponding with him because she wanted to understand what kind of person could murder a defenseless, little old lady. And she ended up getting involved with him. And I said to her on the phone, how could you do that? I mean, didn't you feel angry? She said, he's a changed man. He's not the same person he was. That's another big one, he did it but he's not the same person. He found God. He found religion. Or he's sorry. Eisenberg states that the sheer large number of these women is shocking. These notorious murderers have their fan clubs, but now with social media, all of us get involved emotionally with others, and we do it to fulfill our own psychological needs. And with these women, it's no different. According to Eisenberg, they're all damaged from years of abuse. They couldn't fulfill their relationships in a normal, healthy way, so they turned to something safe, behind prison walls. And perhaps, that explains why we are drawn to such stories as the Chris Watts case. It fills some psychological needs that we all have. That concludes this episode. If you want more stories like this one, consider subscribing and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.